Using a sous vide stick to make beer? That's crazy. Or is it? Stick around to find out. Get it? Stick? Sous vide stick? Tough crowd. Hello everyone, welcome back. Ever since I started in the sous vide cooking last year with the Pico Brew Pico Pro, if you remember that video, I had done some steaks on it. It turned out pretty good, very juicy and tender, definitely. Well, ever since then, my interest has grown in sous vide cooking, and I thought I would have been using that thing a lot more often than I actually did. I only used it a handful of times since that video, and part of it was its capacity limitation, part of it was the complexity of setting it up just to do sous vide, where you had to use distilled water and attach the hoses and all that. It just wasn't as convenient as I thought it would be, but things have changed. Recently I was sent a sous vide stick by Avalon Bay, their SVS 100 model, and along with cooking eggs in it, I made some delicious soft boiled and some poached eggs and some hollandaise sauce for some eggs Benedict. It was outstanding. And I also used it for a couple other things. I did some carrots in a bag that I actually finished up in a cast iron pan. That was pretty killer. But while I was sitting there cooking the eggs, I was realizing I'm in the kitchen with a big pot of water with an exacting device, a water circulating device that can control temperature to within the exact range of mashing a small batch of beer. I thought, hey, I could use this to make beer with. And the idea was born. And coincidentally, it wasn't long after that my buddy Brian over at Short Circuited Brewers, he has a video where he did this very thing not too long ago. So if you want to go see what he did with the stick, go check it out. I'll put the link in the video description down below. So I decided to make my own small batch of brewing called Small Batch Brewing in a Bag with a Sous Vide Twist. So stick around. Time to get started with the strike water. So here I have my 18 quart pot on my stove with the sous vide sticks shoved in here, and I filled it up to the minimum fill line, which is right here. Now, my calcs told me to go a little bit less than this, so I had to fill it up to the minimum fill line. So I'm going to sort of fly by the seat of my pants here a little bit here with some of my calcs. My spreadsheet is only designed for a single infusion mash, all grain brewing system, right? This is a brew in a bag and something new I'm doing, so I'm kind of going with the flow here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing turned on. I'm going to set the temperature to 163, which is my estimated strike temperature, 163.3, but I can't do decimal places here, that's fine. Oh, what's this? So apparently I got this error code that says it's below the minimum fill line, so yeah, it's right at the minimum fill line, but hey, there's room for error here, so I'll add a bit more water. All right, I want to set the temperature to my strike water temperature, which is 163.3. All right, and I'm going to leave the timer alone because I want to control that myself, even though that is a nice feature. I don't want to mess with that right now. So it's heating up. My water temperature is obviously 56 degrees here. That's what it's measuring, and it's dropping a little bit actually for some reason, but it'll get up to 163 soon. Here we are, 163. For those of you who are curious, that was a 58-minute time from start to finish here to get here, without any assistance. At this point, you're probably wondering, 58 minutes, Larry, why didn't you just use the stove? That would have been so much quicker. Yeah, but I had other things to do during that time. Okay, all right, so I didn't actually do those things during those 58 minutes. It was a little fun thing to do anyway. But I actually was trying to answer a question someone had when I posted a picture on my Facebook page about using sous vide for doing eggs and possibly for brewing. Someone commented and asked, well, do I think it's powerful enough to heat up the water? And I thought, well, that's a good thing to try. So I thought I'd do a little experiment during this video and see, and that was 58 minutes. All right, it's time to put the bag in. This is a nylon mesh bag I use for my wine making for straining my grapes. You may have seen that video in the past. If not, I'll put a link for you here somewhere and you can click on that later, but I'm gonna go ahead and put that on there. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and strap this on here. Here, maybe over here, and maybe over here. Okay, and some people say that these mesh bags get sucked into the intake on the Sous Vide device. I have a fix for that, or a workaround. This little doohickey here I use for my fish boil. I've done a video on that too on my channel. I'll put a link for you to go check that out later, but I put that there to block it like that once the grains are in. Actually, I'm going to move this around a little bit more to the side here. There we go. Let's pour some grains in. Okay, now I'm also going to turn the sous vide down. I forgot to do that. Down to my mash temp of 153. Stir this all in. Get all the dough balls out of there. All right, now to keep the intakes from being swallowed up, I'm going to slide this down in there as a barrier, as a screen basically to keep the intakes clear. There we go. There we go. That'll help. There we go. Stir in some more. Actually, the bag doesn't even have to be all the way over there anymore. I can actually move the bag over here a little bit if I had to. Just to keep it away from the heat, the heating element, so it doesn't melt. There we go. It's down to 154, another degree more, and we'll be good. And while it's cooling down here, I'm going to go ahead and set the timer now for what I would normally do 60-minute mash, but I've been reading that with this brew the bag method, you can get better efficiency with a slightly longer mash. So I'm going to go for 70 minutes. Oh, there we go. So now it's at 153 for the next hour and 10 minutes. All right, time's up. Time to strain, or sparge, actually. Take this out of here. Take this off. Raise this up. Put a strainer underneath it. It's a big colander dish, actually, stainless steel colander dish. Let that drip a little bit. According to my calculations, I need to add about 5 3/4 quarts of sparge water to this thing. So let me go ahead and open this up a little bit. I may have miscounted. I got sidetracked. So let's wait in a few minutes, let it drip all the way through, and I'll measure the volume and come back to this again if I have to. So let it finish dripping here, guys. Wind it up here a little bit. All right, let's count that up. I'm looking for about 11 1/2 quarts here. So what do I got here? using the depth of liquid at about 3 inches there, a little over 3 inches. The diameter, the height of the pot, I've already measured. I got the volume. I can calculate the volume in here by calculating the empty volume over the top here. So at 3.5 inches, let me go do the math off camera here, and I'll be back. But about 3.25 inches actually. I got 12.5 quarts. I overshot by 1 quart. I told you I miscounted earlier, and I did one too many, but that's okay. I'll just extend the boil a bit longer. That's all. Here we go, folks. At a boil, I'm going to go ahead and skim off some more of the foam here, and then I am going to let it go for a 90-minute boil to help burn off some of that extra water there, and at a more vigorous rate than I would normally do as well to help with that. And about a half hour from now, I'll add my hops, my first addition of hops at the 60-minute mark. I'll throw in my first addition. All right, time to add my immersion chiller. Get that nice and sanitized, as well as a Whirlflock tablet. So I put my Restricted Work chiller in this white bucket here, not my cooler like I normally do. It's okay though, it's a small batch. I don't need that much water in volume. So I've got cold tap water here. I'm gonna add some ice. That ought to do it. All right, adding another addition of my hops. 10 more minutes and we'll be flaming out. All right, flame out time. I'll go ahead and turn off the heat and add my last addition of hops in there. And I'm going to start the chiller. Okay, all chilled down. Let's take you out of there. Let it drip off a bit. Okay. I'm going to use my 3-gallon carboy here. As you can see, it's a lot smaller than my other carboys, huh? It's cute, isn't it? So it's just the right size for a 2-gallon batch. And this here, it's a sanitized funnel I'm using here. I've already had it soak it in some starch out the side. I also have my mesh screen that came with this thing snapped in place as a sort of a cheap way to aerate this thing without having to add oxygen, and also help filter out a lot of the trub. Since this batch is so small, there's no point in the time and energy of using this auto siphon to sanitize it all. So I'm just going to pour this strictly in from the pot. As you can see, it's working just fine. Every so often it'll clog like that. Then I just use the sanitized spoon that's been soaking, and I just sprayed it just for a good measure. And I can rub the trub off the screen because it does clog quite easily. But believe it or not, this actually really does help with the aeration down below. All right, and there's the trub that did get into the container right there. Just go ahead and scoop it out, throw it out. Then add more. More trub. All right, that was a lot of trub, this one. I'm down at the bottom of the pot, that's why. And I could stop here if I wanted to. I think I might actually. I'm not too sure. Let me take a look at the pot when I'm done here. There's just a tiny bit left anyway. I'm just going to just dump it all in there, so I got plenty in the fermenter to play with later for my losses when I rack it to my keg. I'll have plenty of extra and care less about wasting any. All right, folks. There you go. That's how you keep the trub out of your fermenter while aerating at the same time. This is how I first started brewing years ago, and I hated it, and I can see why now why I hated it. It does take a while, and it takes a bit of effort to do this. But if you're looking for a budget way to get into brewing without having to buy an oxygen can, an aeration stone, and auto siphon hoses and things, this is a great way to go. As you can see, there's no trub in the pot. It's right here. Let me zoom in on that for you. Yeah, so that's the trub. Some got through the mesh too, which is fine, but most of it's right here. Here's another budget item, if you're on a budget, of course, and it's a dry yeast. You don't need to use liquid yeast. I've been using liquid yeast for years because I always have. And in the past year, I started playing a little bit more with the dry yeast, and they make a lot more sense. They're less than half the price, about, and they have plenty of yeast in them. So I'm going to go ahead and Cut open my yeast here. And this is kind of a small batch for this whole packet. This is really meant for more of a 5 to even, well, it's to say a 5-gallon batch. But, you know, there's no point in keeping the whole thing around. So I'll go in just like that. Just got a regular number 7 stopper here. And now my airlock. There we go, folks. I'm going to give this thing a swirl, get the yeast to mix in. And there you go. It's already aerated from passing through the filter and falling into the fermenter, and it's ready to go out in the basement and ferment for the next couple of weeks. It worked very well. It really did. After having gone through this, it was really good to get back into the kitchen again to brew batches of beer. I haven't done that in years, and this allowed me to do that, and it was pretty great. I mean, it's a great way for those of you who have asked me in the past many times, actually, how to brew and do all grain brewing in a small space, a small apartment, for example, or even on a budget, because you don't have all the equipment and or space to do a larger batch of beer. This thing is perfect for that. For one, there's no need for a giant pot. You can use a pot or a kettle that you have at home that's large enough to do a small batch, all grain batch, for example. There's no need for mash tuns, lauter tuns, pumps, siphon hoses, aeration stones, oxygen tanks, all that gear that I showed in my original all grain homebrewing basics video from a few years back. You don't need all of that. Just a large pot, your kitchen stove, and a sous vide stick, a mesh bag, some patience, and there you go. I can definitely see the appeal of this method. And it does a hell of a fine job sous vide cooking as well, so you got that going for you too. If you're curious and interested in getting one of these sous vide sticks by Avalon Bay, pick on the link down in the video description down below. Pick on that and enter my promo code Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, when I ask you for one, and it'll give you 15% off. All right, so now, if you have any comments, please comment down below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. If you're a new viewer to this channel and not yet a subscriber, pick on the subscribe button and click the bell next to it so you get notified of all new videos that I post. And other than that, I'll talk to you all next time. See ya. A while back, I got a Pico Bro when I had gotten the a video on the Pico Brew Pico Pro steaks on my Pico Bro, had reviewed the Pico Brew dang, I can't say that, it's like a tongue twister. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out other videos on my YouTube channel and don't forget to subscribe.